So this is my integrated content unit presentation. I'm Liz Stevens. It's for Education 573, Dr. Wolftang. Intermediate school, 6th grade. The students explore new ideas, materials, techniques, processes, mediums in class. They're also learning the elements and principles of art and learning to apply those across media so that they can, those principles are the foundation of art basically, and they use those in just about anything they would create. They explain what they've learned. It's always fun to know what they liked and what they didn't like about the lesson. Helps me know whether I'm engaging them or not. They make connections between the art they do in class and possible art careers for the future. That's part of our Common Core content is career connections. It helps to make the art relevant to them, and those good experiences that they have in class hopefully make them want to continue making art. And then we know that art helps them in all their subjects by teaching them how to observe, teaching them creative thinking, problem solving, and persistence. So my lesson plan 1 was the Thaumatrope and flipbook lesson. My rationale was because I wanted to try and integrate art, history, and science. Basically, they were also learning, or they were demonstrating a scientific principle, the persistence of vision, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Students constructed a thaumatrope, which is a Greek word that means turning wonder. At the turn of the last century, there were no movies or television. It was a pre-cinematic device, an optical toy. People were fascinated with optical illusions at that time, and so the thaumatrope was invented as a toy. Students take what they learned from the thaumatrope and they make a flip book, and then a flip book, we filmed those and made that an animated short film. And so then as a class we had a film festival where all the students get to see those animated shorts, and then they voted on one student's film to win the Olivier, which was our version of an Oscar. And then hopefully this lesson gave students an introduction to animation or film as a career, because basically they were doing just a real rudimentary animation with the flip books. So the persistence of vision is the principle that was demonstrated by the thaumatropes and the flip books. And in this video, Mr. Wizard not only demonstrates persistence of vision, but then he explains it. If you don't want to watch the whole 5 minutes, just watch the first minute and a half. You can see the set that I did for my kids, and I also showed this video to them in a PowerPoint presentation, so they get to watch this. So the thaumatrope portion, these are just some examples. It shows you basically visually how one works, and some examples of thaumatropes. I did construct some pre-made thaumatropes for the kids to pass around during class, during the lecture portion and the demonstration portion, so that they could see what the expectation was for them to construct their own. And then this flip book There's 2 animations here from from 2 students. You can look at those, and they're not very long. They're pretty fun to watch. Kids did a good job. And then here's our film festival, our Olivier. I made a golden statue for the winner, and we had an award ceremony after the kids voted, and the winner got to take home the statue. They were pretty excited about that. So my lesson plan 2 was Paleolithic art. Rationale behind that was to introduce art history, and I figured I'd start at the beginning. So with the first art, I try to make it interesting by making it experiential, and I try to give kids a connection by making it relevant to them, by suggesting that if they had any European ancestry at all, they could possibly be related to the Paleolithic people who made the art in the caves of Lascaux and Chamonix. And then I took their artwork and I set up the room as a cave, and so we had a simulated cave tour, and they got to experience what it might have been like to discover art inside a cave. This lesson also helped them see the timelessness of art creation, and some of those archetypical symbols that continue to persist throughout art, and as long as there's people, they're going to be drawing symbols. So it's kind of neat to see how the symbols evolve throughout time. And then it also, again, extends that career thinking to archaeology and anthropology. There's application for artists in those fields, and also film, because I showed them the Cave of Forgotten Dream film documentary by Werner Herzog, and also at the end we watched Brother Bear, which is set in it's a Disney film, but it's set in Paleolithic times too, so that it's kind of neat for them to see the two ends of the spectrum there. They created a totem, and they drew it with a permanent marker onto a rock or a natural surface. I did give them some examples for reference, but they were to create their own spirit animal or totem or whatever you want to call that. And there's an example there on the right of student work. And then the next part of the lesson, they came together as a class, and they drew on a large, long piece of craft or brown paper.
Paleolithic art unit,
redrew their totem
so
with colored chalk.
The wall.
And then I hung all those.
They also decorated rocks
in the room,
spirit rocks as artifacts.
Set the room up with like a pathway where they could walk the perimeter.
As we walk along here,
and we shut off all the lights, and the kids had flashlights, so I let them use their cell phone lights, and they got to tour the cave and pretend that they were discovering the art for the first time. And there's a short video of that here on this page, and you can watch that. You can see what the room looked like.
So they walk the perimeter of the room and look at it. Well, we have it set up with all the lights turned off so that they have a flashlight. So there it is. That's the room set up with the walls decorated like a cave.
So my lesson plan 3 was Oaxacan folk art, paper mache sculptures. I wanted to connect the art. Most of the kids are Mexican Americans or Mexican, so I wanted to connect it to some folk art from Mexico. And these are fanciful, fun, colorful carvings of animals, other figures that originate in the region of Oaxaca. It is folk art, which is formerly art of the people. These artists have no formal training, they're self-taught. So that's why they call it folk art. And in Oaxaca, it's way down in southern Mexico. The people are related to the Zapotec Indians, and they've been doing this art for a long time, but they came to light in the mid-70s when one of the artists was discovered by the art establishment, and finally they were recognized as fine artists rather than folk artists, and the carvings sell for a lot of money, so I guess it helped them career-wise too. It's interesting that the whole family is involved in the production of the art. Traditionally, the women paint and decorate and the men carve, but the techniques are passed down generation to generation, and some of these families have been doing this for a really long time. Also, the students are taking their park tests, so I wanted to give them something to help them de-stress, giving them an assignment where they got to work in 3 dimensions instead of 2 and get messy and have fun. And so this is just an example of the folk art carvings. You can see the real fanciful figures there and how they're decorated with the pattern and bright colors, and that's hopefully what the kids are going to emulate in this lesson.